evening. I know it's a really important night for me. The Warriors are playing, so I appreciate you all for taking time. I know, for taking time out. So we have a lot of exciting updates. Many of you came to Stege back in February. We invited community leaders, and then again a couple days later in February we had a board study session where many of you were present and were able to express your opinions on things that you felt would help our school sustain and continue and thrive. And so as a result, we've gone back to the drawing board several times and come up with what we think are some great ideas and great initiatives that we have planned for the 1920 school year and potentially to move us into the 2021 school year and beyond. So with that, I would like to bring up Mr. Matt Duffy, who is our superintendent.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time out with us this evening. Marcus, where'd Marcus go? He really wanted me to say and make sure I'm absolutely clear that no one in this room thinks this meeting is at all because we have any intentions of closing this school. And I think we've made that clear a number of times, and we're excited about the work that we're going to do to stabilize and strengthen the school and then really think about the design going forward. So we've been at this for a couple of months, from an initial community meeting to board meeting, and there are a lot of people in this room who deeply care about the future of the school. So we have longtime community members in the room, we have elected officials in the room, we have just teachers in the room, staff. So there's a lot of folks who want to see this school thrive. And there was even a story that came out about the work that we're doing in one of the education magazines. I think it was last week. So we're excited to do that. So again, I'm Matt Duffy, superintendent of the school district. I want to make sure if you need translation, we have translation service in the back left corner, so feel free to pick up a headset. And I'm just going to ask if you would quickly turn to your neighbor as we get to know who's in the room, and just take 2 minutes and introduce yourself. Thank you. So tonight we have we have 4 outcomes for the evening. We want to provide the community an update on the work that's been completed since our last engagement meeting a few months ago. We want to really make sure we're communicating our commitment to making sure the school is strengthened and stabilized going into next year. We want to make sure you understand our responsiveness to the things that folks have asked for, so you're understanding that we are responding to the very specific requests and needs. And then really continue to work with you to generate energy and excitement for sort of this two-phased approach we're taking, both for next year, which is just a few months away, and then continuing to think a little bit longer term about the future of the school. So we're excited to continue to partner with you to get Stege in the best position possible for all of its students in the community. We've got a few different people who are involved tonight. You met our current principal, Ms. Ruiz, Mr. Aurelio, who is our executive director, who leads the Kennedy family of schools, including Stege, is going to really walk through with you where we've been over the last couple months, who we've talked to, what we've heard, and some of the things that we're looking to do for next year. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Aurelio. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to ask that you not look at your phones and tell me anything about the game while I'm up here. I'm recording the game. I don't want to hear scores, cheers, anything like that. I'm going to watch it tonight. So my role as executive director, Stege is one of my 19 schools that I work with, just so you have a sense of the work that I am doing. And I was provided the task to work with Stege and the community to start the process of a redesign effort. And so back in February, we started that process. So I'm going to walk us through some of the feedback that was collected during this process, and I will speak to the different forms of feedback we received, and so you can start to digest some of that information. So here are some of the stakeholder groups that we looked for feedback. We had an initial meeting with community leaders. Some of you who are in this space now were here at that initial meeting. We provided from our website a public survey that has been up and open throughout this whole time to collect additional feedback. We did an internal survey of all staff at Stege, current staff, so they could give us really candid information about where they feel could help, what can help transform this school. We talked to the Stege leadership, and then we also created what's called a Stege steering committee, just for full transparency. That's myself, some of the cabinet members, Marcus in the back, Martine Blake, that sort of are leading some of this work at this district level and sort of guiding the work that's happening. So I want to talk about the survey we did within the school. So we surveyed all staff members. We had a variety of structural changes or opportunities for the folks here to sort of rate based off how they felt that these changes could impact the school moving forward. I want to actually, before I go too deeply into this, to really delineate 1920, which is the fall, versus 2021, which is a year away or a year and a half away. So we've heard of the reimagining or design process for Stege. I want to be really clear, that design process isn't for the fall, 1920. We're not going to open a brand new school in 1920. Our goal right now is to strengthen and stabilize Stege for the students that are here into 1920. We know that it takes more time to fully redesign a program than a couple months. You know, it would have been unrealistic to fully redesign a program in that short amount of time. So we had two tasks. Our first task was, what can we do now going into 1920 to make sure our families are supported, make sure students are not leaving our school, and make sure people really want to remain at Stege. So this information you're going to see is really about how we can sort of curb that tide. How do we change 1920 and support 1920 so that we can then begin the real heavy lift of a redesign, with the target date being 2021 for a full redesign. Okay. So, yeah, question?
You've used the word we a few times. Who's the we?
So the we, and we're going to get to the we part, which is school community. We're going to have later on in the presentation, we're going to talk about formative community advisory group. We're going to bring that in as far as the redesign.
Will you also talk about the percentages of parents or teachers from this school and community that will be a part of that?
We could talk about that. Martine, I don't know if we're going to talk about percentages exactly, but you have a structure in mind that Martine will share. Yes. So I ranked these from high to low. What are the areas the current staff felt would have an immediate or an impact moving into 1920? You can see one of those things that we looked at are adding additional classes so the students have a variety of opportunities. That actually serves multi-purpose because as students go to these additional classes, the classroom teachers have an opportunity to plan and organize and structure their day. There was a discussion about smaller class sizes, the daily collaboration for teachers. We talked about commitments.
So these are just some of those examples. The community survey, the one that is open to everyone to commit, these were some of the things that were high on that list. Up on one, the students work with
highly trained teachers and staff. That really rose to the top in the community survey. That the school had a clear vision for student success, making sure the facility is conducive to learning, that there are emotional supports for students here at Stege, that we are really focused on those academic needs, accelerating learning. And this list actually goes on to 2 slides, and you can see where those pieces were. The school honors the rich and cultural and racial heritage and diversity of the community, extracurricular activities, making Stege sort of a hub of the community as well.
I had a question on the very first slide, sir.
Back here? Or
Yeah, where I
first?
see additional classes and a staff survey. I noticed there's nothing related to science. Does that mean the staff's not interested?
So this is not a fully inclusive list. Those are just examples. Art, music, they could be science. Like,
I was wondering, is there a possibility of getting this on paper with my own eyes and I can get going fast? I need to be able to see it myself.
I don't know if I'll be able to get it for right now on paper, but for future reference, we can get these generated for folks. Yes, for sure. And Marcus, is there a way to post this as well? We can post it online as well, so we'll have that available. But back to your
question about the science. Part of the redesign that will happen in 2021, there's going to be a heavy dive into really being focused on the science of STEM programming. That's real heavy lift that we know for 1920. That's not possible at that granular level. We are going to do things. So there's an opportunity as we add additional classes to look for, say, a science teacher to really have that be one of those classes.
So when you were, whoever the we were that put this together and did this research, when they put this thing together and did this research, when you have additional classes, and just I'm a salesperson, and to sell it to a community without questions or clarification, at one of the lowest performing schools in the country, you would put arts and music and PE as additional classes. That's not impressive for us, who knows internally how our students here at Stege are performing. And if you were going to sell that to a community that already comes with suspicion, it should be there. Some things should be there, like math, science, those classes that are STEM. This is, I mean, that's really a bad shot in the arm for people who already came with the trepidation and fear and also just the excitement of thinking this place was going to close. That's not a good sell for me, and it has high numbers.
High numbers. Oh.
So thank you for the comment, and I just want to reiterate that it's not an exhaustive list. These are additional classes to math and science and reading and the core classes that are already there. And also, this is just a survey. This is not what is being presented as an option. These are survey results. We're trying to let folks get feedback. So if we can allow Mr. Aurelio to finish with his presentation, there'll be an opportunity for feedback. But this is not, please do not think that this is anything that's being proposed. We heard feedback. We're letting you know we heard the feedback, and there'll be more opportunity for further discussion on that.
And Mr. Walton, that wasn't feedback. That would be a suggestion to elevate your presentation so it's marketable in a community that comes with suspicion and trepidation.
I would like to know, was any of your surveys taken at any resident council groups or meetings or neighborhoods?
So the surveys were put out.
So it's just not.
That's a
So,
staff survey.
no, we invited, we made sure all the neighborhood association presidents were notified and asked them to help us get information out to those communities. Yes, we do need to go out further into the community around here and get folks to engage more, and we're working on a process to do that. This is one more meeting. We have a long way to go, and we have a lot more opportunity for community input. So we're working on opportunities to get more neighborhoods and more communities and residents involved in the process. So we will need your help. When we get to the later parts of this meeting, when Ms. Blake stands up and talks about the community advisory group, those will be working positions, because we can't just get out to all these places. We need our community members to get out.
Okay, I just want to stress that it's important to all communities, but I would like it to be known that we have 4 members of our board from Crescent Park Resident Council present tonight.
Thank you.
All right.
So let me continue with just summarizing some of the feedback. So back when we did our initial community meeting, this is just a summary of the information we heard from the community leaders around what they'd like to see for the future of Stege. You know, they wanted to see that the school be engaged with the local community for support, with the faith-based organizations, the alumni, the retired people, emphasize hiring or restaffing the school with board-certified, experienced teachers that are committed to working with the community of learners. Also, once again, that commitment for 3 to 5 years. Provide some incentives for staffing of the school, some monetary incentives focused on ongoing professional development and training for all staff. Continuing some of those trends, providing wraparound services for social emotional support for students and families. There was suggestions of rebranding, building a strong school climate, culture of excellence, making sure the site administrator is visible, warm, welcoming, supportive to students, staff, and parents. So I really want to move towards talking about 1920 as far as strengthening and stabilizing Stege as we know it. So what we're trying to work towards, right, is we want to have a clear, articulated vision for Stege. We want to make sure that we are providing student social emotional health and development. We want to see a strong parent community engagement plan. And we want to make sure that the efforts put forth in 1920 are really there to support the heavy lift that needs to occur as a redesign. That redesign work happens during the 1920 school year. That's why it's hard. I wanted to really distinguish between 1920 and 2021. The work going into 1920 is not redesign. We're just strengthening 1920. The redesign work happens during the 1920 school year. So, Stege Elementary, as we know it, is an urgent and immediate need of action to interrupt the downward slide that it has experienced in the recent years. So we're trying to strengthen and stabilize for 1920. We want to recommend some structural changes, some things that we feel could potentially help strengthen 1920. And I want to share some of those with you. So we know that as we make structural changes, there's going to be an impact on all staff members of the school. So we know that based on timing of the year, we have to make sure that this current staff has the ability to opt into these changes. Because when we make changes like this, you're changing the working conditions for the employees that are here. So we got to make sure they have an opportunity to opt in. We're committed to hiring a design leader in the fall to do the heavy lift of starting that design work. In 1920, that's when the design team will be formulated. Design team will any questions about the process?
Role and what
Right,
exactly they will be.
So we know that running a school and designing a school are two really heavy lifts. So we know that being a principal at a school and then at the same time trying to design a school is going to be really challenging. So that's why we're looking at bringing a design leader.
I guess my question is, are they designing the academic structural change in approach, or are we talking about a physical design?
It's
Or is it both? Some of all
it's
of
a
that?
combination of the things. Matt, there, if you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I would say it's less the physical design.
Okay.
This is hiring a design leader who would work with a design team, community design team, to work through next year to really design what Stege will look like for 2021.
Kind of like a visionary roadmap type of collaborative. Yes,
Keep going.
is that kind of where culmination?
Yes, I think what we're saying is we've got to open this school in, it's almost June, right? We're going to open in 3 months. So we got to put some things in place to strengthen, stabilize the school. And we've got to take next year with the design leader, which is basically the next principal of the school. That's really what we're saying. We're going to hire a leader who's going to work with the community design team to really determine what that major shift will be that needs to happen in the school.
This would not be like the innovative partners, community and innovative partners, we're not speaking of them. Because it's so vague here, nobody knows who, what, or where. Somebody has to have some ideas about who that.
Yeah, I think in the next couple of slides it might be a little more clear, and then I'm happy to try to clarify.
Just an observation here, when you talked about it right here, I mean, it's ambiguous for me as well. All staff will be given an opportunity to opt into a recommended structural. When you go to the next line and talk about the design leader, we're thinking structural and not internal, not academic.
Well,
It doesn't read well for those of us who can read pretty good. It just does structural, and then you lead to a design that's academic. That doesn't fit.
the structural changes are going to impact academics. When I go over those structural changes, hopefully that'll start to
Structural
connect.
for me means building. It doesn't mean alphabets, ABC, and math, science, and algebra. It means building. So that's ambiguous for me. This train is moving.
All right, and I saw your hand up for a while.
Well,
Let me move through that because I want to make sure. Oh, sorry. So you had your hand.
You're saying impact of working conditions.
I think it'll come clear in the next slide. We have union members here. Yes. We have to work together on that for programmatic changes. Right, so dealing with contractual obligations, I'll use teachers for example. Teachers are under contract with our district. If they were to opt out of the programmatic changes for next year, because it does change some working conditions, we as a district need to find schools, for example, they would have the ability to transfer to a different school within the district. Same for all the other groups, labor groups. That's why it's an opt-in, right? They have to commit to the changes that the program would be in. So let me jump into some of those, so hopefully it'll start to make a little more sense. So things that would increase the teacher staffing quality, right? Because that's one of the things we heard that resonated. High teacher turnover, teacher quality. So one of the things we're looking at is adding 10 additional non-student workdays. That changes the contract for teachers. That is a change. We would require an MOU with a teacher's contract to be able to do this. Because a teacher's work year is 186 days, we'd be looking at a 196-day work year. This allows for the team here to have 5 additional days before the start of the year to do a lot of heavy lifting, programmatic lifting, to prepare for our students when they arrive in 1920. We also want to embed 5 of those days during the year so teachers have that opportunity to work together and not have to worry about getting substitute teachers in place to work as a team. We're going to structure the day so there's daily collaboration and prep time for teachers. We know that high quality programs provide teachers the opportunity to work as professionals. That is where those additional classes that I shared before, like in art, music, science, that's where those classes become necessary because that's how a teacher, a second grade teacher, frees up her students to go to a different class so she has time to collaborate and prep. That's why the additional teachers are in place. We heard that we need to prioritize the hiring of staff at Stege. So, we're prioritizing the hiring of staff at Stege. One of the ways we do that is we want to hire first and foremost your highly credentialed, clear credentialed teachers, national board certified teachers. We want to look for these traits in our teachers. They're trained in culturally responsive teaching strategies. They are trained in positive behavior and intervention supports. They are aware and know about restorative justice practices. We also know that we need to provide an incentive to hire these teachers. So we're looking at a $10,000 stipend for a hard-to-fill school like Stege, right? We want the best for the students here. We also know that we have a commitment from the teachers union to work with us to hire a full-service community coordinator for Stege.
I really want to emphasize the point. I know there's a lot of text and writing on the slide, but the number one thing we heard from folks was about teachers and quality teachers. So we're going to do something here that we have not done and we are not doing at any other school yet to test that out, and that is to adjust our salary scale of teachers on a special scale and work to give this stipend to see if we can attract some of the talent around the district with the understanding that you must know some of these things coming in. So we really want to get the teaching course right coming in here. Then obviously the next part is the work about the community coordinator. That is something that we heard loud and clear. We worked with our labor partners, worked with others to figure out what do we think are the right incentives to get the right folks here. Because we've had trouble staffing the school, and we've got a lot of first-year teachers and a lot of in and out, and that's what we want to stop.
I think additionally it's important that having Oh, and where are you gonna recruit from? Are you gonna recruit at any of the historically black colleges to try to get teachers to come in here so that the students will have those bodies?
Yes.
So I think we have to remember there's a timing challenge, right? It is almost June. We're talking about.
So let me present that question in another way.
Yes.
The reason why you have been losing teachers, the reason why you've had one-year teachers running is because of behavioral problems, trauma issues in the classroom. Are these teachers going to be culturally competent to deal with our children, or are these teachers going to be elevated for the new community's children coming to this community? That's my concern with this jargon that's being presented to us tonight. And so since you're talking about that, I want to know where these teachers going to be recruited from, because right now, this young man who is doing very well came in here from Teach for America. Every group from Teach for America for the past 7 years came to visit who, Demetrio? When they first came to town to learn about the city of Richmond. They came to see Steve, they came to see Donnell Jones. I've been listening to this stuff for 7 years, working with teachers. And the teachers do not have classroom management skills. To manage these kinesthetic learning boys and girls in this African American community. Now, if you're going to do a study, dig deep.
That's right.
You have a PhD, dig a little deeper and see what the real problem is. The real problems are here at Steve. It's not that we need renewing, we need some services for this community.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. I think we're doing exactly what folks are trying to get after, which is if we try to do it just the same way, through the same hiring, we've got to ensure that folks come in with the skills that you're talking about. So that is what we're trying to do. Call out what are those things that we need, and what can we offer to bring some folks here, whether they're our best from inside the district, they're from outside. We just had some of our HR team get back from the East Coast and the Southeast to some of the HBCUs. So we are excited about who we can bring to the district and to this school, and that's what we're trying to do. So we agree, and I would love to see community, that is part of, that's why we see it as a community design, so community can say, we think this person's right, we don't think this person's right, and you can help us evaluate the talent coming in.
Can I ask a question? So in regards to the stipend, is that like a sign-on bonus? Is it after they've improved the gaps? What does that look like? And then how does it play into keeping them here? So retention.
So the 10,000 this is something we've worked with the union. There would be an initial payment mid-year and an ending payment, right? We want folks to stay and remain. We don't just give them money up front necessarily. We want them to commit. Now, the following year, for 2021, there would be a rehire process for the reimagined Stege, because we're not trying to determine what that reimagined Stege looks like. So if there's a different path, if the design team is looking for project-based learning, whatever that thing is, that nugget or whatever that piece, that's going to dictate and drive the hiring for that next year.
So the 10,000 will bring them in, but even the people who are being compensated the additional 10,000 won't necessarily be on the track and working
So we set that up for our union partners next year. We would love to see if this is successful and we can continue to do it. So that's where we are. And it's also going to help us learn
say to folks, now that you're
we're going to re-image the school later.
Amen.
Great suggestions.
Amen.
Let me move through. So that was really focused on staffing, right? And I want to really also pay some attention to the students that are here. And so some of the things the students would be receiving with these programmatic changes, adding on teachers that can lead things like physical education, visual performing arts, technology, and science. So part of what needs to happen once these programmatic sort of changes are taking place is the team of Siege has to start putting that meat on these, right? This is a skeleton,
okay,
right? We are not predetermining all these things. We're giving them the skeleton here, and they're going to decide what that intervention looks like. All right, I'm actually going to turn this over to Martine Blake, who's the Director of Family and Community Engagement, to talk about some of the next steps around forming community groups.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I really appreciate the input around, we want to advise, we want to be involved in the reimagining and the redesign for Siege because we want the same thing. We really want to develop a reimagined Siege where it's for the long haul. It's not for today, it's not for just next year, but we want something that's sustainable and that continue to grow and meet the needs of our students. And so, Ms. Holland, you raised the point about the elders, right? And so we want to have an opportunity to hear from the elders. We want to have an opportunity to hear from people that have done this work and that have made an impact before. Another gentleman over here mentioned having the right resources. Are we going to have people or resources at the school that can really meet the needs of this community? And we understand that you know that. We have some idea, but we can't do this work in silo. We really want to partner with you. And so we put together a community advisory board to really advise and give recommendations to the district, but also to really be intensely partnered with us as we consider what needs to happen next year to really strengthen and stabilize Siege, but then what needs to happen for the long haul as well. So this group will be heavily involved with the design design team, that work would not be in silo, but it would be done in collaboration with the community. The scope of work, these are just examples of some of the things that our Community Advisory Board may do. Assess the impact of programs, projects, and events. Help us plan events to really make this a more vibrant and welcoming community for our students and for our families. Serve as a community liaison, to really be that partner for us to hear what's going on the ground in the community and really kind of get a heads up on what our students need before they walk in the door. And as I mentioned before, provide input and recommendations to the design team throughout the 1920 school year. So I can't emphasize enough, we're not looking to do this work in silo, we're looking to do this work with you. So community members can have a seat at the table as we look to redesign Stege for next year, or for 2021. So we're looking to have 15 to 20 members on this community advisory group. The members would be selected by the steering committee, and they would actually be appointed by the school board. And we don't just want to have like one person, right? We don't want all elders on the board. We don't want all CBOs on the board. We're really looking to have a mixture, like a true cross-section of this community here. So that would include high school students who are alumni for Stege, adults who are Stege alumni who have been through this experience before, Stege parents, Stege staff, community-based organization, and just members at large. The commitment. So this group here is going to need to be heavily committed, right? Like we're not going to need like a once in a while commitment from this particular group. We're going to really need for you to walk with us as we go on this journey. And so we're asking for members who would like to be a part of the Community Advisory Board to attend meetings at least monthly. There may be subcommittees that spin off, and you may have to commit more than once a month. But just know for this opportunity here, this is a huge commitment. And we're asking for members to serve at least 2 years. So next year, we're looking to strengthen and stabilize Stege and also start that redesign work. Continue. So that you can, it just maintains consistency. You don't have to retrain folks or reinform folks. Folks have walked that journey.
Members of this committee sit on hiring and selection and recruitment board, committees to hire and select staff and principals, administrators of the school.
We have not developed that much yet in regards to board appointments. And the recommendation that we can take note of.
And how will the committee be selected?
So today we have, on each of your tables, you guys have applications for the committees. You can fill out the application on paper. Your sheet has forms where you can click the QRL link, or you can fill out a form online to apply. Once we get the application, again, we want this to be a cross-community group, right? So we're going to vet. The steering committee will vet. We would ideally like to have, for example, 3 adult alumni or student alumni, 3 members of the CBO. We just want to make sure that it's like a true representation of the community and not too heavy on one side or the other. So the steering committee will vet applications and then we'll submit those applications to the board.
So it's not just limited to tonight, but you're going to take applications for a period of time so you can get the best.
Great question.
Applications.
So we're actually looking to close applications on June 30th. So we really need your help to get the word out there. You all know who you want on your board. You know who has access to resources, who's going to be that best fit. So please spread the word near and far. But we're looking to close it on June 30th so that in July we can have our first meeting before school starts and you guys can start to support us as we plan for the first day of school.
Yeah, my name is Antonio Moore, community activist. So I've been noticing in the schools, y'all have any more representations of the community?
may not have thought about. And so this is exactly the voice that we want to hear. There was another question.
I have a question. I know that when you're trying to do...
We can't hear you.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, I know that when you're starting to develop or establish a community advisory board, you know, look at the word, community advisory board. We've gone through these boards and all of a sudden they look a little different.
But what about the school site council? Stege has a school site council, and it seems like if you jump ahead and go to the community advisory, that is like giving the parents at Stege even less a voice. And a part of that council, there is a slot for a community member that can come and advise. And then once upon a time, it used to be a school advisory committee. Why can't we go back to that and then extend and branch off? Because it seems like the parents are losing their voice, they voting power here within the school and the site council.
There is a space on here for Stege parents as well. But even when we think about Stege, we want to hit parents that perhaps aren't, we want to hit the whole community. We want to have a various perspective, but I do hear you. And there is room for Stege parents on this. And the SSC will still have some level of voice, and if SSC members want to, they can apply for the community advisory board, but we want it to be community representative, not solely parent representative. No, we want your voice. We want your voice for the parents that are here. I don't want to make it seem like we don't want to hear that, because we really do.
I'm not a parent, I'm community, I'm an advocate, and I'm on resident council. And so, yeah.
Have you considered having Asset consult on who, and identifying who these members should be?
No, we have.
Why not?
If we open it up to ASAP, we would also need to open it up to Eli. So we have not personally came up with that consideration, but we can add that to the notice of the consider.
getting back to her comment about the school site council. Now, the school site council is supposed to be the voice that is planning what's helping to develop a plan for the school. And it has a budget. So it appears that what you guys are doing is negating the site council in terms of their input and their vision. These are elected people who represent the school. And then you're going outside, which I have no problem of including the community. But that site council should be the legitimate voice in terms of what is going on in the school. If it is effective, if they have been trained and know what they're doing, which you guys don't do too well at doing, training. But I think that you can't negate the site council.
Recommendations.
Council speech operation.
Yeah, so, what I'm trying to find out is that
to participate on a less frequent basis. So things like, for example, sponsoring the first week of school welcome events to new and returning families, helping teachers prepare their classrooms during the summer before school starts, helping to beautify the campus or even the hallway. There's other things that we may be missing from this list that perhaps you as community members see that there's another one-time or volunteer opportunity that may not be captured here. So if you see that, you should have post boxes with Post-its at your table, and you can take your Post-it and you can make a recommendation, and I can come around and pick them up and we can add them to the volunteer list. as well. So we don't want to, again, we don't want to do this work in silo. We want to hear your voice at every opportunity. If there's something that we're missing, please write it on a post-it and we'll come around and pick it up.
Sorry, I just want to make a suggestion. For some of those, like the helping the teachers with the classrooms and like the hallways, since there's no students here, they don't necessarily need to be fingerprinted. And what I'm thinking about is elders who don't have transportation to get down to community engagement but are still interested in contributing. And so for some of those, I don't know if you can talk through or find out and bring it back if there's some activities that don't require them to be fingerprinted because they're not interacting with the student body. And then that way the community at large who don't necessarily want to work with the kids are still contributing, even for after school like doing things around, helping the teachers with grading papers, things that are not interacting with students that are still going to add value from the community.
Sure. Thank you for the recommendation.
As a teacher over 30 years, just retired.
Each of you should have just gotten a sign-up sheet at your table. So on that sentiment, feel free to sign up. You can bring me the form at the end of the meeting, and we'll collect this information and follow up with each other. And so I'm going to pass it off to Marcus Walton.
If we don't turn it in tonight, where do we send it? Is there an email address or something on here?
Or can you turn it into the office?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can turn it into the Steve main office.
Okay.
Nicole, did you hear that? Okay. Good evening. My name is Marcus Walton. I'm the Communications Director for the district. And what I'm here to do, we keep telling you we want to hear feedback. We need your feedback. We need your input. And so what we're going to do is we're going to ask you to answer two questions tonight. Number one, what are you excited about here at Stege and this process? And thing number two is what needs more attention? What have we missed? What are you not hearing? What do you think we need to spend more time on? We need to hear that from you. And so we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to allow folks to get a couple of minutes, 2 minutes, but please limit yourself to 2 minutes to talk publicly. If you have something to say you want to say, we will use this as a public comment time. But any additional comments, questions, or thoughts, you have the index cards on each table. You have pens on each table. Please utilize those cards. We will collect them. If you want a direct response, put your name, your email address, and phone number, how to reach you by smoke signal, something. We will get back to you with if you have a question or you have a comment that you want addressed. So please make sure that you, if you have something that you're burning to say, you want to say, please limit your comment to 2 minutes, and then let's make sure that we utilize these index cards. We will be taking notes and taking comments, but if you have something that you really want a response to, or we don't have a lot of time to reach yours, more than 2 minutes, use the index cards. We're going to try to limit this to 20 minutes, so I'm hoping if we need to go a little longer, we can, but if we can respect each other's time, and if anyone has something they would like to say publicly right now, a question, a comment, a criticism about the way this is going, a way we can improve, please let me know.
Okay, I'm going to turn my timer on too, Mark.
Oh, go ahead.
Go. I am very excited about teachers like Ms. Hannah, who I love to death. Hi, Ms. Hannah. She runs the art program here. I'm excited that they welcome the community in. I've been here reading. I know Ms. Holland comes here and reads as well. And so we're not turned away if you want to help, and I'm excited about that. What I did learn while I was here, though, is that these teachers need help, and so instructional aides in the classroom aides in every single classroom. I think at least next school year is going to be extremely imperative, especially at the kindergarten level, where kids who have not had exposure to any educational experiences prior to stepping into the kindergarten classroom. So they're not familiar with having to sit down and stay on schedule. And that is extremely hard for a young person, especially one who doesn't have children, to understand how to manage. And so instructional aids in the classroom is going to be extremely imperative, and that's what I think needs attention. I got 58 seconds. You want me to say something else? No.
That was my turn. I got hello. Okay. I feel that we should have something for the parents to be more involved and let them know what's going on in the district and what the district provides and resources that they can use with their children. That's what I think. I didn't say that.
Wait, when you say resources, you mean like homework help, things like that?
No, I'm saying for the parents. So resources would be like trauma-informed support, therapists that fit with our culture, knowing about the programs like the asset, things that's in already the district can provide or connect them to. They need to have something that's more local.
Somewhere we can reach out to parents.
Services.
Yes, menu services.
You got that menu of services. Okay, someone else? That's Ms. Price.
An attractive place makes children want to come and they want to be part of it. And this is probably the word I think you're very smart. School education. And it should have been remodeled a long time ago. You can't tear it down, and again, you do something to make it attractive so the kids want to come.
Yes, and we will take that down, but we can say that there's some discussion about some facility upgrades to the school. I do believe, Mr. Duffy, that we're trying to do something for the fall even. It won't be a full rebuild, but we're working on it. We are. There will be some changes that you will see, very visible. Next, anyone else have comment, question, concern? No? Ms. Smith? Are you ready? No?
Don't call me like that.
You okay?
I had to chastise my child.
Sorry.
But I would like to say something, Mark.
Okay, yeah, there is. This is fine.
One of the most memorable times that I had with the Steve community is when the district provided a bus, and we took students from Steve, from Downer, from Ford to Sacramento to the capital for them to learn about their state and what goes on. And they met with the lieutenant governor, and it was a beautiful day, and we were promised that that would continue as part of their education, which it should be, because it is part of learning about the state in your community, part of the curriculum. But now it hasn't happened. And I think it's things like that that people need to be really focusing on for our students in terms of them getting hands-on experience in terms of learning.
Hands-on experiences in terms of learning.
No, I'm back there, Marcus.
Oh, there we are. One moment.
I don't mean so she got hit a little bit real good. But you gotta understand, when I went to school, I'm from Richmond, been here all my life. When we went to school, y'all gotta understand, you can't see the picture when you're stuck inside the picture frame. So step out the frame and watch this picture. We had band, we had glee club, we had all these events in our high schools and our elementary school. We ain't got nothing now. Y'all can't even send us a Marine Corps. So if a kid who lives in the 4-block radius, is all they see is violence and trauma, that's all they're sucking up in their information in their psyche. In this field. If our schools can't take our kids to San Francisco, a moratorium to the zoo, or out to see something different, if you want something you ain't never had, you gotta do something you ain't never done. And if you ain't seen nothing, you ain't gonna do nothing. So how do you think these kids are gonna do all this stuff you want to bring them to the school when you're not invested in them, but you want us to invest in you? That's kind of oxymoron. We gotta invest into these kids. Our whole system ain't invested into our kids at the end of the day. Y'all get paid and we get paid. I always say that. Because you look at the way that comes down and you look at what really hits the ground, it don't even look good. And so we really got to start investing into these kids and stop talking about all this stuff. You want us to come? Put your money where your mouth is and we'll show up. But until you do that and you see it, that it has balance and substance to it, we're not coming. Our parents ain't, these kids panicking because there's no substance to them. Just like she was saying, intervention. What do you have for the parent in your school? See, it affects the parents, it affects the kid. If it affects the kid, it's supposed to affect the parent. It's supposed to be a ripple effect in education, not just you take care of the kid, leave the parent hanging. Thank you.
Okay, here we go. Let's talk.
What I'm excited about, first of all, is the turnout that we have tonight. I really appreciate seeing people that are interested in helping Steve move forward, because I'm a product of the West Country Costa Unified School, Richmond Unified School District. I also am excited because I know these children can learn. We had an intervention group that started out before I came this year, and then things weren't going so well. So when I got with the principal and some of the teachers, Miss Hannah, and we reorganized, in 6 weeks, 95% of our children made progress. That tells you they can learn, because we had the program down to a T. And even those first year and those second year teachers made that progress. So I'm excited about that.
Anyone else?
Really quickly, we are going to provide translated applications and information to put at the Stege main office. If you want to turn something in tonight, we have our translator back here, and they can help you fill out the form. I really apologize about that, but we'll make sure that there's translated materials for you at the back.
All right. Anyone else? Last chance. We're going to move on to a discussion of next steps if we have no one else. But please make sure you fill those out. You can either hand them to me, your index cards, you can either hand them to me or leave them on the table. We'll get them at the end. Thank you.
So I get the opportunity to close tonight. Hopefully no one has been watching their phone. Don't tell me anything about the game. No, don't want to hear it. Now, just a quick timeline. We have, obviously there's a lot of work that needs to happen before school opens in the fall. Tonight, first bullet is the work we're doing tonight, which was presenting, giving you all updates on the strengthening and stabilizing work for 1920. We still need to finalize our MOUs with our labor organizations, right? We proposed some programmatic changes. We can't move forward. We need to make sure everyone's on the same page. That's going to trigger next steps. Next steps would include making sure the staff has the opportunity to opt in to these programmatic changes. If not, then we need to do the hiring of staff as well. Once that gets in motion, there is a lift that needs to happen, so we open the doors in the fall with these programmatic changes. And like I talked about, this being a skeleton and the meat needs to be put on, that work is going to be done by the team here, right? The team at the school. They need to talk about what those additional days look like. They need to really articulate what those programmatic changes mean for the students at Stege. Martine talked about the formulation of the community advisory group. That's going to happen the next month. I think June 30th was the deadline for that. We want to promote the work that is happening at Stege. Stege in 1920 will feel different than Stege today. So we want to make sure our families who are looking at kindergarten for next year, our families who look at charter schools, they need to know what's being offered at Stege in 1920. We want them to come back, 1920 and beyond, but 1920. We want families to come back to us in the fall. And then obviously we need to formulate that Stege design team, right? Because they are going to do a lot of heavy lifting come fall for the 2021 school year. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I appreciate all the feedback. I know we took real extensive notes. We can't do this work alone. It does require all of you to contribute, participate. Before you leave, if you did not sign in, we have sign-in sheets. We want your information. Please, please do so. We will stick around if you want to ask us a one-on-one question. We will be here. Thank you again for coming out. Good night. And go Warriors.